These pansies are in full bloom, but today I'm going to be talking to you about another flower that starts with the letter P. Petunias. And I'm not going to be talking about just how to start them from seed. I'm actually going to be taking you on a journey. Yeah, this journey starts with the little seed, but then I will take you through how they went into full bloom, and then some nasty little pest management issues I had to deal with, and then even taking cuttings and overwintering them in my greenhouse. Yeah, growing petunias from seed is easier than you think, and I wish more people would do it. So let me show you how to do it so you can grow all these petunias and save all this money, because guess what? You buy it from the nursery, it's going to set you back about $3, $4, maybe even $5 a plant. But first, a quick little intro. Hey folks, if we haven't met before, my name is Tara. I garden in the Bay Area, and maybe you found my videos because you love green stalks and vertical gardening and container gardening as much as I do, and I have got 14 green stalks, tons of tips, tricks, how-tos on how to get the most out of your green stalks. And one of the things that I discovered in my journey of vertical gardening is how much I love flowers and how beautiful they look in the green stalks. So I am on a quest to gather more and more flowers and experiment with them in my garden, not just in the green stalk spot, all over. And petunias, they're pretty high on that list because they grow fast, they bloom profusely, and they actually work out really well in my Northern California Bay Area climate. They can actually perennialize. Wow. So today's video is one of my favorite kinds of projects, that long-term journey project, which shows you what I started off with and how I learned in the process and the results. So let's go back to February 3rd, 2025, when I first started planting petunia seeds from this tiny little packet that cost me just 25 cents at the dollar store. Let's plant petunia seeds. I picked these up at the dollar store, and they usually have great germination rate, but I've never grown petunias before, so I really don't know what to expect. Oh my gosh, look how tiny those seeds are. Now, petunia seeds need to be surface sown and they need light to germinate. So I'm just going to do my best to spread these around, and then I'll just mist them and put them somewhere warm to germinate, maybe with a humidity dome. So the seeds actually sprouted fairly quickly, I'd say about 5 days or so. But then they kind of grew a little bit slowly because it was still very cool outside in February, and all of my heat mats were being used up by my tomato and pepper plants. But anyway, I let them do their thing, and in about 6 weeks' time, they were ready to transplant into my garden. So I planted these petunias on February 3rd. Today is March 17th. They're about this size and they're ready to be transplanted. So I've got them in these little trays that I got from Greenstock, actually, the seed starter kit. And all you need to do is you can push your finger up the bottom. I'm doing all of this with one hand, so that is dangerous business, but let me see if I can grab this. Shouldn't be doing it this way, but that's okay. I think they are tough enough, and I'm going to be planting them in these little window boxes. So separate them out. Each plant is going to grow big. I mean, chicken math, you guys. They look tiny at this stage, but they're going to grow bigger. So that's what it looks like. I'm going to plant 4 in each of these. And I don't know what colors I'm going to get. That's the thing about growing from seed. They will come in different colors that may not be true to the parent because they have slightly different genetics. All right, I'm going to finish this up. I've got 2 planters, and we'll come back and see how they do in a few weeks. So I got maybe about a dozen plants that I planted in those window boxes, as well as in a couple of other places in my garden. And there's still some seeds left over. Now, compare it to buying starts from the nursery. $3, $4, $5 maybe a plant. It's getting more expensive these days. So think of how much money I saved already. Yeah, starting from seed is suddenly starting to make a lot of sense, isn't it? And here's the thing, I didn't just get one season out of those plants, but more on that later. Let's go back in time again and see how those seedlings progressed. Today is April 22nd. Look how large they've grown, you guys. They are about to pop out some blossoms anytime now. So petunias grow really fast from seed. I don't know why people don't grow them more often. Well, stay tuned and I'll show you the progress update. Ooh, so exciting. But before we proceed any further, I wanted to quickly jump in here just because I want to say a quick thank you. I was recently on the Facebook Gardeners, Greenstock Gardeners group, and someone had asked in that post to comment about some good vloggers to follow on YouTube. And the people responded, and I was just skimming through all the responses. And I'd say at least half, maybe more than half, recommended my channel. And I am just so grateful. It is this kind of stuff, your comments, your encouragement, that gives me the inspiration to keep making these videos and to keep doing more with my green stock. So thank you. Thank you so much. All right, so those seedlings looked like they had grown to a point where they were ready to start blooming. And then I had to go on vacation. Yeah, I went on vacation for 3 weeks or so, and I left my daughter in charge of watering them. And frankly, I was a little shocked at what I came home to. Take a look. So I went on vacation for 18 days and came back to this absolutely beautiful mess of petunias. These I grew from seed. I started them in February. It is the month of May, and they are full bloom. I mean, these plants are too large. In fact, I had to tie them up at the bottom there just to stake them up. They were sprawling everywhere. And what I am going to do is I'm going to give them actually a nice short crop. I'm going to be taking cuttings, and I am going to be planting them and getting more petunia plants. And these will bush out and they will flower, and hopefully they won't look as lanky as they are right now, but they are obviously thriving. Yeah, I was definitely surprised at how many blooms those petunias pushed out. But what I wasn't expecting was how tall and long and lanky they had grown. And if I hadn't gone on vacation, I probably would have trimmed them and kept them at a reasonable size and made them look more bushy and more bloomy. But at least now I knew that I knew how to grow petunias. So what did I do next? I went ahead and bought more seeds. But what the tall and lanky petunias had taught me was there are different types of petunias, and depending on where you want to grow them in your garden and in what kind of container or in the ground, you really need to know what kind of petunias you're getting into, because they are kind of classified based on their growth habits. So let's talk a little bit about petunia varieties, and then we'll go back in time again. So quick little crash course on petunias. So first off, did you know that petunias are actually in the Solanaceae family? So that is the family of plants that include things like tomatoes, potatoes, peppers, eggplants. Yeah, I was kind of surprised as well, but it does help know that they're all cousins, because it really helps you understand how the petunia grows, as well as the kind of pests it gets, and so on and so forth, and also what it can serve as a companion plant for. But anyway, from the bloom perspective, which is what we're interested in, there are roughly 3 types of petunias. The grandiflora petunias, so that is actually one of the varieties that I bought and I absolutely love. This is greetings from Jaromere, and I'll show that to you in some of that historical footage. But oh my goodness, sometimes Baker Creek, which has the prettiest pictures, puts pictures that really don't do justice to the actual beauty of the flower, and this was certainly one of them. So the grandiflora can produce really large flowers, up to maybe 6 inches, 7 inches or so. These didn't grow as big, but there are varieties that grow pretty large. So pay attention to that, but they also usually work really well in containers. And then there's the multiflora variety. And as the name kind of implies, this is where there are multiple blooms. And the blooms are actually a lot smaller than the grandiflora, but oh my gosh, it is showy because just the abundance of blooms it produces. Now, you do want to pay attention to the height that these plants get to, but in addition to the height, also the width. So for example, this one, which is Petunia Sparkler, grows to a height of about 12 inches, but has a spread of about 20 inches. So think about that when you're putting it in a container, particularly things like green stalks. It's going to get really, really wide, and that can cause its own host of problems. And we'll get to the problems in a little bit, the kind of pests as well as the kind of diseases that petunias can get. So last year I was growing petunias primarily to grow in my green stock. One of the advantages of growing in something like the green stock or a movable planter is petunias do not like too much hot burning sun. So where I'm sitting right now, even though it seems like I'm getting a lot of sun, this is morning sun. And then towards the afternoon, this whole place shades out. So if you're growing in a green stock or something like that, you want to put it in a place where it gets morning sun, afternoon shade. That would be perfect. Or you want to put it in a planter that can be moved so that, especially when you get into the harsher days of summer, you can move it off to the shade during those hot days. And that way the petunias can continue to bloom and be happy. Now, something very interesting about these two varieties that I chose is that this one, which is the Greetings from Jaromere, has very brittle stems. So that was another problem that I had in the green stock, is that I had to give it trellising because it was just really heavy, full of leaves, thick, heavy, water-filled stems that really broke very easily. I mean, I would just brush past it and I would break off a huge branch. So they absolutely need to be trellised. The Sparkler variety, on the other hand, did not have as brittle stems. It actually kind of did more of this. And the leaves were actually really interesting too. There was a huge difference in the shape of the leaves between the Sparkler and the Greetings from Jaromere. The Greetings from Jaromere had kind of thick, shorter leaves, and the Sparkler variety had these thinnish, pointy leaves. So I thought that was really interesting, even though they are so closely related. And finally, there's the wave petunia. Now, I don't have them in my garden right now, but you don't want to put those in containers because the whole point of the wave petunias is that they flow like waves everywhere. They spread and they produce an incredible amount of blooms and beautiful colors. Oh my gosh, you guys, do try and grow petunias from seed. There are so many varieties to choose from, and gosh, it's so much fun. So I've got a new variety that I'm growing this year. Actually, I got a new variety and then I got two more because I'm crazy that way and I love petunias so much. But let's go back to the video and let's see what happened to my new batch of petunias that I started in around mid-June. Now remember that that's pretty late in the gardening season, so I was taking a chance. So when you have seeds like these, which are petunia seeds, and they are so tiny, and you need quite a level of accuracy to get them into their destination. One, you can just put it in a paper like this, fold it and sprinkle it on. And the other is to use a toothpick, which I'm going to do right now. You're going to dip it in some water. But be careful here. First, spread this around so you can see them. And then with the tip of the toothpick dipped in water, with great preciseness, you can pick up a seed and position it exactly where you need it to be. And there you have it. And now all you need to do is come with a spray bottle and spray some water on it. The seeds are exactly where they should be. The other method is to actually use this as like over here, shaking some spices into it and gently shake it in there. Now I'm not going to do it that way. I'm going to keep going the toothpick way because I am not very accurate in shaking it and I don't trust it. I think I'm going to spill all the seeds into it. So I'm just going to go with the toothpick method. So for these Sparkler petunias, I think I've got a little bit more seeds to work with. So I'm going to try the shaker method. See how they all clump up in one place? That's why I prefer the toothpick method, especially when you want to really control the number of seeds. So all I'm going to do is spray these into place and hope for the best. Now these seeds do need light to germinate, but I want to keep the moisture in. So I'm just going to cover it with this plastic bag and leave it somewhere where it gets a little bit of good indirect light, like my greenhouse. So these petunias, these are the prettiest ones I've grown yet. They're called Greetings from Jaromere from Baker Creek, and I grew them from seed. Yes, you can grow petunias from seed, and not just you can grow them, they go from seed to flower in 6 weeks, as long as the weather is warm. So add petunias to your list next year, particularly Greetings from Jaromere. Yeah, those new varieties were just so beautiful, but because I started them so late in the season, by the time they grew. And oh, by the way, they actually grew really, really fast compared to the previous batch that I started in February. So makes a difference. You don't want to start them too early, but then again, you don't want to start them too late either, because they just won't have a chance to get to the point where they explode in blooms. The other problem was the extreme heat that we have in summer was taking its toll on my new petunias. And so yeah, I had a little bit of maintenance issues, and then there were the pests. So petunias are plagued by a very interesting pest that I have not had in any other plants in my garden. It's called the budworm, and it's the baby of some kind of moth. Let me actually show you a short video that I created, and yeah, watch for that satisfying squish at the end. Caterpillar damage is easy to see, but the caterpillars, not so much. One of the sure signs that you've got caterpillars is when you see these little black things. This is caterpillar frass, or poop, and it usually means that a caterpillar is not too far away. Get him. Yeah, the nice thing about budworms, though, is that they are actually relatively easy to control. So this year, I'm going to be more on top of my game. Last year, I wasn't, and I was kind of learning, and I realized how much damage they cause. They will eat into the flowers, and the flowers open, and they're sort of raggedy with all these holes. They eat away the growing tips. They're just nasty. And there are so many of them, you just can't even control them by picking them off. It gets to that point. So either stay on top of your game, or every week you've got to come out and spray them with BT. Now, BT is an organic pest control, and it stands for a Bacillus thuringiensis, something like that. I can never pronounce that. But the nice thing about it is that it will take out your caterpillars, but it won't mess around with your bumblebees and your pollinators and all of that kind of stuff. So you want to make sure that you spray every week regularly for at least 3 weeks in a row. And then again, keep an eye on these things every day. And once you see a little caterpillar show up, start spraying again. That's the only way to keep them out of your petunias and to keep your petunias looking lovely, because without that, they will really take out your petunia plants. It's just no use growing them if you've got budworms. Now, some of the other things that can happen to your petunia plants, because they grow so thick and dense and the leaves are so full, it can actually get fungal disease if there isn't sufficient airflow. So every once in a while, come and prune off some branches just to make sure that the plant is breathing properly, and make sure that fungal disease doesn't take hold, especially if you live in more humid climates. I don't have that issue so much because I have really hot, dry summers, but if you live in a humid climate, you might want to pay attention to fungal disease. And then the third thing, and this is more related to sort of the larger petunias, the ones, the grandifloras, which have these very thin and delicate petals, very lacy petals. They do get affected by winds, they get affected by rains. And so, again, another reason to want to put them on movable planters if you can, because you want to get them out of the rain if you're having lots of downpours, because they will damage the blooms and the flowers won't look pretty anymore. So I was a little disappointed that I didn't get as many blooms as I should have, because I planted those petunias so late. But again, because I live in a warm climate, petunias can technically perennialize if you kind of just give them some protection from those frosty nights. So I decided that I was going to take out my petunia plants from my green stock, put them in a grow bag, and put them away for the winter in my greenhouse to see whether I could keep them alive and bring them back next season. So this blueberry green stalk is bound to become an indoor green stalk. And I've been dilly-dallying getting these petunias planted into something else. And the something else is going to be these grow bags. I'm basically just going to take them as is, as much as possible, dump them in these grow bags, and then move them into a shaded, protected part of my garden, maybe into my greenhouse, and we will see how they do. They may or may not survive, but we're going to find out. And the worst case, they won't survive, and I will start some new greetings from Jaromere Petunias next year. They're actually pushing out a whole bunch of new buds, which is a good sign, which means that it could be time for me to take cuttings because they're still in a growth phase here. So let's hope that they will grow. I'm going to take some of these, and I'm also going to take some cuttings from these. These are painted daisies, never grown them before, but they are getting a little bit leggy, and I want them to be short and bushy in the green stalk. So I'm going to take some cuttings from that as well. And they take a while to get to this size. So cuttings will make it much faster than growing from seed. So I already started doing it here. I've got two kinds of petunias here. One of them has a broader leaf. This is Greetings from Jaromere, and the other has more of a pointy kind of leaf. It's called Sparkler. And you want to cut a piece like about this size, 4 to 6 inches long. But even more important than the length of the cutting, you want nodes. So this is where the most active root development will happen. So you want at least a couple of nodes that you're going to be burying in the soil, and at least one node should be sticking up at the top. And yes, you can use the growing shoots that have buds on them. Just make sure that you remove the buds, because those buds are going to take energy away from the plant, and also remove any excess foliage. In fact, if it's got bigger leaves like this, you want to actually cut off half the leaf so that it doesn't spend any energy at all on the top and everything goes underneath. Okay, I am done with all the cuttings. The daisies were a little bit tricky. They are very tender, so I hope they grow. But if not, I've just given these all a really good prune and they should grow well. And I really love these huge trays. These are new. I got these from Vago Garden, and they're the biggest I've ever seen in a multi-pack like this. So I'm going to put inside under my grow lights, and I'm going to put a lid on it, and fingers crossed. Let's see how long they take to root and if they root. So I was not able to dump it out the way I thought it would. It has just been too awkward and too large in this container to get it to fit into one of these 20-gallon grow bags. But I scooped each one of them out, kind of like this. Oh boy. Just from each pocket, I scooped out a bunch like this and just dropped it into this. I'll backfill it with a little bit of soil, water it in properly, and then put it away in my greenhouse. Let's hope it survives. So let's go take a look at my greenhouse and let's see how those petunias are doing, the ones that I have put in the grow bags, and then I'll take you inside and show you how the cuttings are doing. We built this large enclosure at the end of last year to keep the squirrels out, and so far it's working really good. Yep, this is a plastic greenhouse that I picked up on Amazon. Actually, I think the petunia is on this side. Let's open this up. I open this up every once in a while because you can see there's humidity that condenses on the plastic. Look at those petunias, you guys. So these are the ones with the thin, skinny leaves, the sparkler type. And let me see if I've got any greetings from Jaromere. Yeah, there they are at the back. So they're all looking nice and green. There's actually half a bloom over there. And yeah, so far so good. I think they're going to make it. But I will show you how they develop and when I bring them out and how they look. But yeah, I'm really hopeful that they're going to make it. They look so nice and lush and green. Okay, let's go inside because I want to show you how those cuttings are doing. And I also got a new pack of seeds from Johnny's that I'm going to be planting up. And I've ordered a couple more packs of petunia seeds from Baker Creek that I want to tell you about. All right, so let's check out the cuttings. It's been exactly 6 weeks since I took them. It was December 4th. Today is January the 8th. And here they are. I'd say maybe about 2/3 of them made it. Or at least I hope they made it. And the way to know if a cutting has made it or not is you kind of give it a little tug. So for example, over here, if it has some resistance, then it is got roots. And for example, this one, I can tell it hasn't made it, maybe not. But if I tug it a little bit, look, it came right out. Yeah. No roots that I can see. So that one's a goner, but the rest of them looking okay. And you know what's really interesting is those daisies that I took cuttings for. Now the ones outside haven't bloomed yet, but this one, the cutting, I'm getting a bud, you guys. I think the plants are under stress being taken out and put in the strange environment. These are all happier outside. But yeah, I mean, some of the leaves are looking a little pale. Maybe I'll come and give them a little fertilization. But hey, they're alive all this time. And, you know, even these are getting some blooms. Look at that. So I don't know how this experiment is going with the cuttings. I have a feeling that when I took them, they were kind of on their way out. You want to take cuttings when it's nicely growing and actively growing. I took the cuttings when the plant was like, okay, we're kind of done. We're pushing out our last blooms. So I think that's why they're not so successful, but it's fairly easy to root petunias. I didn't use rooting hormone or anything. And yeah, still got about, I'm hoping, at least 50% success. Started some moringa from seeds, so soon to come on the progress of that. And I got some lettuce growing indoors, you guys, over here. Oh my goodness, look how lush and beautiful that is. I am thinking maybe I can grow lettuce indoors. I've got a very hot climate, can't grow outdoors in summer, but the ones that are indoors are doing just beautiful. Oh, and by the way, I'm getting started on my indoor seed stations, and I've got a masterclass that I am in the process of doing. I've already got 3 episodes out already, and there's 4 more coming. But it's basically how to prep and plan for your seed starting, for your last frost date, and then how to get going with the seeds 10 to 12 weeks before, 6 to 8 weeks before, and then 2 to 4 weeks before your last frost, how to set up your grow station, how to take care of your seedlings, how to get them hardened off to transplant in your garden. All of that is going to be in that masterclass. So follow along. I'll put a link to it at the end of this video. All right, it's time to plant my latest seeds. Let me show you what I got. So this is from Johnny's. It is a new variety. It's called a double cascade bold mix, and it's got like 4 different colors in it. It's beautiful. And it comes as a pelleted seed, which is really nice. So if you see over here, that's how they look. Let me see whether I can focus here. Yeah, so that's how they look. They're tiny little pellets, and they are much easier to sow than your dust-like, seeds that I got in these bags. Now, the disadvantage of pelleted seeds is that they will actually deteriorate faster. So I'm going to have to use them all up this year. It says that it contains about 50 seeds. I'm pretty sure they close to getting that right. It's always almost exactly 50 seeds because it's expensive to make these. And then I'm going to be using the water and toothpick method to pick them up. And I'm going to be placing only 1 seed per cell because it says 97% germination rate. That's one thing about Johnny's seeds. They're all amazing germination, and they say it right on the packet what the germination rate is. So I can expect almost all of them to germinate. And then I'm also going to be filling up some cells with these. I'm going to save some of these. I won't use all of them because, just in case. So I'll use about maybe 25, 30 seeds of these, and then the rest I'm going to be filling up with these, the ones that I planted last year, the Greetings from Jaromere and Sparkler. And I've also ordered 2, 3 more varieties of petunia from Baker Creek. There's one white ruffled or double petal one, so pretty. And then there's a purple one, which is kind of a double color as well, so gorgeous. And then there's a Super Bissima something something. I'll put the names on the screen, which is just tons and tons of blooms. So excited about those. They're all, if I remember right, they're all smaller size, so they should be able to fit in my green stock. That's the idea. And this one from Johnny's, this is an interesting one because it's only going to be growing about 8 to 15 inches tall, they say, and the more than the height, the width, right? Because the petunia plants just tend to do this. This is only going to be about 10 to 12 inches wide. So this should be perfect for my green stock. So fingers crossed, let's see how they do. I'm going to go ahead and plant these off camera because you've seen me planting a number of times, but do follow along. I will keep you updated on the progress of these, and also sign up for my seed starting course. It's free. When I say sign up, all I mean is go to my YouTube channel and check on that podcast, and I will put a link to it on the screen. I hope you have a fabulous gardening season, folks, and until next time, live green and love your greens.